Hey guys, I want to talk about the best settings because people keep asking this question all over the place. And I know there are people who made some videos about them, but they're pretty confusing because it all depends on your system. It all depends on your experience. And what I've done is I've tested on my system, tested what works good for me, but I've gone out and checked what works good for others. With the current state of the game. So I'm going to try and suggest what works for you based on your configuration to an extent. So this is what I have, 3070 Ti with 8 gigs of VRAM. VRAM plays a role, of course, if you don't know. It's attached to a screen, full HD, 180 refresh rate. So that's what I'm using overall. Make sure your display adapter is always your dedicated one. It's not your internal. But if you have a, let's say, a laptop or system which doesn't have a dedicated one, then of course you want to use whatever you have available. It might or might not run the game, or it might really struggle with the game. You have to check, but you can try, of course. If you don't have a dedicated one, if you have this one, then what you want to do is, after selecting that and trying to run the game, just put this super low, the lowest you can, and try and play at that, and then slowly push up. That's what I would suggest. But anyways, you have dedicated graphics. Most of you would. Select yours, select your refresh rate of your screen, whichever screen you play on, and move onwards. Frame rates, I'm leaving them on unlimited, and that's what I'm suggesting for most of the people. And why? Because I have this enabled. It caps the frame rate, but you have to play with it. In my case, I put this on, put these to unlimited, and that's smooth enough for me. If you want to turn this off because it's consuming more of your GPU, then you have to enable these. And now, depending on your system, but if you have a decent system and your screen has a specific refresh rate, what you want to aim here is to have a higher frame rate cap than your refresh rate. Because if you go lower, then you're wasting your refresh rate. Your frames are lower than that, so not really benefiting from your refresh rate. So as long as you have a decent system which can keep up, go with the higher choice than your refresh rate. If it's not that good, your system, try to stick with at least 120, 100 FPS, depending on your system. If it's pretty good, then go with the highest setting possible. Out of match frame rate cap, remember, this is not just the menu, it's also your shooting range, it's also your black sight. So you want to keep it the same like this. You don't want to mess it up because it's lower than your shooting range has a problem. Your black sight movement and interaction has a problem. Sharpness, people have tested, any lower, bad. Any higher, bad. 50 is the best for all systems, period. VSync and fast sync, I disabled both. You can try fast sync if you have any tearing or such. If you have so yeah, but for me, I like disabling both because they do introduce some input latency, and I don't want that basically, so I leave them off. FOV 120 is preferred if your system can keep up. If you have a system like mine or better, then 120. If it's lower, go back to 100. If it's even lower, then go back to 90 or 80. 90 is probably the right setting. Try not to go lower than that, but if you have to, then you can play with it. Generally, it does affect how you see things at distance. distance, and it doesn't affect your FPS that much. So going with the full setting is fine. Vehicle third person FOV, I prefer 100. You can, this is entirely based on you, but keep it default. Generally, it's good enough. Scope magnification, leave it off. What it does is if it's on, it only magnifies what's inside the scope, and everything else is the same. But if it's off, then the entire screen zooms in along with your scope. But that is more FPS efficient. The scope magnification affects your FPS, but it's more realistic. But right now, with the current state of the game, it will make your FPS go crazy at different times. So leave it off. You can enable it when you're playing single player just to make it more realistic, you know, until they optimize the game, and it probably works much better. These things, so anti-alias is off because I have DLSS on. I'll explain that in a bit when I get there. Motion blur, keep it off, doesn't make sense. Doesn't even make sense to talk about it, to be honest, because it's not something you're gonna like. Simple. Reflections, low and ultra, there is zero difference. Literally, there is zero difference. But keeping it low boosts your FPS. But like I said, no difference. And that means no difference. Not like 99% or 90%. No difference. Texture filtering, you can keep low, still kind of fine. Medium is almost the same. Unless your PC can go ultra, and then it will eat up your FPS. But it's not gonna make much of a difference. So even low is just fine. It's very small details which you would hardly notice when you're playing. So low or medium, your choice, but go with low if you have a system like me, and lower, and you can try medium or high if you have a better system. Simple. Just play with them. Ambient occlusion, leave it off. It's not gonna affect anything, your visuals or anything. It's just gonna help with FPS. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Particles, it's all the things which fly around when things explode or shots hit. So the higher, the more FPS you will drop when people are shooting at you or things are exploding around you. So keep it low just to have more FPS at that time, because that's exactly when you need more FPS to shoot back or fight or have your controls being very responsive. Distortion, keep low. It's not gonna make a difference, and it doesn't change anything. Low just helps with your FPS. Scene details, resistance, they don't change much at all. You know, just having them at ultra or anything is not gonna make your system things look better. And just remember, I'm not a guy who puts things to low, sacrifices visual details for FPS. That's not my game. I like things to look good while having enough FPS to play. That's my game. And when I'm putting them low, it means there is no difference in the visual quality. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. So right now, it's not optimized. So most of the things, if they're low or if they're ultra, and you can go and compare, there's almost zero difference. Just a few small details here and there. So that's it. As you go down, global illumination, that's the lighting. You can put it at low, and it really doesn't look any different than ultra. Simple as that, but eats up a lot of FPS. So you can play with it depending on your system. If you have a higher system, you can play probably put it like medium or high, but that's it. Shaders, low, not much different at all. Textures, I put medium. You can try low or high depending on your system, but that's about it. Streaming, keep it low. Shadows, keep them low, because right now they kill your FPS because the game is messed up. You have to improve it before you can boost these and get some benefits. Shadow map, keep it low, not making much of a difference in your visual quality, but giving you good FPS right now. Post processing low, doesn't make a difference in your visual details much, but gives you so much more FPS. Fog is how the fog looks. Of course, you know what the fog is, and it kills your FPS. So keep it low. Animation. So this is something which does affect things. So what you want to do here is, if you have a very good system like a 4080, go with high, or even ultra. That's what I would suggest. But if you have a medium end card or lower end card, like if you have a system like me or closer to mine or lower, then go with medium. Go with medium if you have a system like mine or slightly close to it or slightly better, like a 4070. But like a 4070 or 4060 even. But you have anything lower, then go with low. It does sacrifice a few very small animations, but you want them. Simple. You want them there. So you have a system which can handle it, go with it. Now, most people suggest this to be off. They think it adds like blur or just makes it blurry, but I don't think so. This is not something new. It's been there for a while. It's basically AI upscaling. Your system renders your game frames on lower resolution, and AI upscales it. And being someone who understands AI in a very deep way, this is pretty good. So it's not making your things or your frames blurry. It's just making them more smoother to look at. So that's what I'm saying. So if your system can have it, and your system like mine, then go with it and change these settings. If you have a very good system like a 4080, go with quality. If you have a system like mine or slightly better, go with balanced. I prefer performance. That means it's probably rendering my frames on 720 pixels, and then it's upscaling those to 1080p pixels, and there is not much difference because AI is super good these days. If you don't know it, you should know that AI is really good at doing this kind of stuff. Now, for the last low latency, this is something which depends on your system a lot. You can have a better system and struggle with it. You can have a worse system and be very fine with it. So test it out. Play with this being on or off, and if it's off, then put a cap here. Like I said, cap should be more than refresh rate. If it's on, then leave these to unlimited. So that's kind of it. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask in the description. Like I said, this is based on my own tests, and I play this game a lot. And playing smoothly is something which matters because, you know, the more smooth the game is, the more kills you can get. And random spikes, random FPS drops, and highs and all, they just mess things up. So I like a smooth running game throughout, and this is what's giving me right now. So that's kind of it. So here I'm just stopping. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and let me know how it works for you.